evening, everybody. This is Davey T, and welcome to another episode of Field Sports Scotland's podcast, FSS Chatback. Do you know, this week there's been so much going on that I hadn't got a clue what I was going to talk about this week. And I think I'm going to talk about actually setting up your rifle with ballistic calculators, knowing all the bits that you need, and maybe a little talk about reloading this week, because that's something that a couple of people have been asking me about. There's also been a lot of questions in regards to shooting long range. I think with the increase popularity in the UK with the precision rifle series, whether it's the rimfire challenges or whether it's centerfire, a lot of guys, there's no secret, there's no voodoo dust or magic that allows you to shoot out to 1,000 yards in IPSC targets or steel plates, and I've done it. I have done it. So it's not like I'm going to talk about something that I'm not used to. I am no expert on it. Trust me. There's guys that totally geek out when it comes to the ballistics of things, the diameters of bullets, the seating depths, and you get proper geeks that will reload every cartridge on the range for F class or whatever class that is. And then you'll get the precision guys. And to be fair, some of the precision rifle stuff, I'm going to be honest, it's not practical rifle stuff anymore. It's more like target shooting and not in a practical way. However, it is becoming very, very popular. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. First of all, I'm going to tell you what I have been up to. What have I been up to today? Today I've been swapping rifle scopes. So Arkin Optics had asked me if I could do a little bit of rimfire stuff in regards to the Arkin Zulus ZHD 520. And so I had the Zulus on my 270 last night, and then I put it onto the 223 to go foxing with, and then because Arkin had asked me, I have pretty much been swapping scopes about again. So I put it on the 22LR, and after I do this podcast, I'm taking the dog out and do a bit of foxing and rabbiting, and because we're getting a few too many bunnies in one of the farms that I work over, and we kind of need to knock the population back. I already shot thousands and thousands of rabbits on that property. It reduced it for a couple of years. Now they're bouncing back. But the problem is it's a very soft, sandy soil, and when they do make their burrows, they make it treacherous for vehicles going in the fields, for animals in the fields, for cattle, for horses. And they make a mess. So we're trying not to get back to that stage where we were at before. So that's what I've been up to. I've been catching up on some of the deer management news and talk a little bit about that next week, because I want to do a full-on kind of deer management, a proper deer management podcast. But I really want it to be fully informative, because it would be nice to get a guest in. I'm going to ask a few people if they're going to come in and have a chat with me. But at this time of year, with everybody doing all sorts all over the place, going on holiday and stuff like that, it's always hard to get people in to do a podcast. So I have got lots of people lined up who are wanting to come and do a podcast with me, but it's not going to be for another couple of weeks, 4 or 5 weeks yet, at least. It's busy. But this week I've got guests at the weekend. I will be taking some guests to go and shoot deer, which I'm looking forward to. I have been carrying on with the deer management stuff on the estate that I'm working on. We are pretty much trying to keep the replant free from... The replant's got broadleafs, rowans, various other types, and pretty much try to keep that deer free at the minute, which is pretty difficult. But we're getting there. It seems to be working. Just me being there It has seemed to work. So I've been doing that. But mainly I've been working with on Fox Control and working with the rifles and doing a bit of work with the rifles, which is absolutely fantastic. It's really good to be able to do that, to spend a bit of time now that the weather has calmed down a little bit, just getting back into the swing of things again. The fields are still absolutely sodden, so there's only a few fields I can drive in, which is annoying. But what can I do? It's been a wet period, and that's all we can do, is just hopefully it dries out quick enough. Anyway, shooting out to long range. Where's the need for it? Well, there is a practical need for it. There's a practical need if you're hunting. Most centerfire calibers are very capable of shooting out past 200 to 300 yards. And making a kill, and to do it effectively and accurately. And then you've got your rimfire calibers, whether if it's 22 LR, that is fantastic out to 50 yards, 60 yards, and even 100 yards if you've got plenty of practice with it. But you want to push it a little bit further, and everybody wants to see how far they can shoot. Now, if you've got safe parameters, safe place to shoot, and practicing out to 600, 700, 800, 900 yards, or even 1,000 yards, if you've got that ability, why not? Why not learn how to shoot your rifle out to further ranges? Is it ethical to shoot animals out to that range? Well, in the UK, best practice is still to keep it with under 200 metres. Other countries, it is very acceptable to be shooting elk and deer and stuff like that out to 450, 500, 600 yards, 650 yards. It's all about what you're capable. It's not about what the law says. It's about what you are capable. Because there's lots of variables. Once you take a rifle, any caliber, that beyond it is full range, beyond that 100 yards to 200 yards or even 300 yards, then you've got other variables involved. You've got windage, you've got your ballistics or your bullet drag, you've got all sorts to think about. It's not the case of just, let's hold over and aim. You know, it doesn't quite work like that all the time. There's lots of factors you have to take in place, and the further you go out, you have to think about safety further. Now, if you're killing animals at 1,000 yards, you have to remember that you might be shooting 2950 FPS, 2950 FPS at muzzle velocity, but when it gets downrange to 1,000 yards, it might only be hitting that deer or whatever, that animal, at 500 or 600 FPS. That's subsonic at that distance. So you've got to think the wrong bullet might cause you a better bullet might actually give you a little bit more muzzle velocity, or not so much muzzle velocity. Sorry, the more ballistic coefficiency out to that longer range, giving you a little bit more punch at that longer range. But again, at 1,000 yards, some calibers just won't kill properly at that range. You're firing a 50 grain bullet out to 1,000 yards. You might hit a steel plate at 1,000 yards, but the chances are of killing a deer with a 50 grain bullet out to 1,000 yards, wow, you'd have to be super accurate, and it has to be pretty spot on. And then you have to think about finding that deer at that range. So there's a lot of things to think about if you're hunting long range. But if you're just plinking away and you're popping targets, punching paper or denting primers or whatever out to 1,000 yards, and you just want to see what the capability of your rifle, then that is completely acceptable, providing it's done safely. And it is very good to do. It's very fun because you're stretching your ability. You're seeing what your ability can be within the normal parameters of hunting. So What do you need? Well, first of all, you need a bullet that groups. You need a round that groups. Doesn't matter what caliber you've got, it needs to group. And this is where the fascination of sub-MOA bullets, sub-MOA groups, sub-MO, minute of angle groups at 100 meters is. This is where the fascination of trying to get everything grouped in on a thumbnail size, because the further you go out, the more the spread is going to be. And you kind of have to, well, you're limiting that spread the longer ranges you go, as if you are sub-minute of angle. So the tighter the better. That's why a lot of these precision guys are asking for quarter MOA all the time, bullet on bullet, clover leafs, whatever you want to call them. They're looking for all those bullets to be touching dead on centre at 100 meters. To get that, well, the many guys reload, because that is where you can tune your cartridge to your rifle. Each rifle is different. So I might have a Tikka T3 270. A Tikka T3 270 that is shooting 2900 FPS. I could go and get the exact same Tikka T3 from the shop. Exact same barrel, serial number 1 digit apart, and you can almost guarantee you that the same bullet might not shoot the same as what the previous rifle was. So you could have both rifles side by side, exact same make, exact same length of barrel, 1 serial number apart, exact same everything. But they might shoot one bullet at 2900 FPS and the other one might shoot that exact same round at 3000 FPS. And you've got 100 FPS of difference there. And that means, well, your velocities are going to determine your distance and your drop. So then you've got the other factor of it is you could have the same two same rifles, and you might have one box of ammo, any brand, and you might fire 3 rounds through one rifle and you get a perfect clover leaf, sub-MOA, sub-quarter MOA grouping at 100 meters. And the other rifle, the exact same make, brand, serial number, 1 digit apart, the exact same thing, might not even group with that bullet. So reloading, a lot of guys reload to make sure that you can tune your cartridge and load to the rifle, if that makes sense. Then you have to go through all the other parts. Once you've got that nice group, that perfect group, then you have to figure out what the muzzle velocity is. Again, this is why we need 2 different rifles. Ammunition on a box, on a factory box, could turn around and say it is shooting 3150, but your actual muzzle velocity from your rifle, because of age or whatever, might only be 2900. So you need to know your actual muzzle velocity, and to do that, we put it through a chronograph. And that's there's various styles of chronographs. You've got bayonet ones that attach to the rifle. You've got attached to the rifle barrel. You've got shoot through ones that are great. I'm hearing a lot of good things about the new Garmin chronograph, for instance. I'd like to get my hands on one so I could try it. So if Garmin's out there and allow me to test it, that would be cool. But I can't afford one at the minute, so it's not going to happen. I've been using a Magneto Speed version 3 that I got from a friend of mine, and that has been working perfect for me. Now, it doesn't matter what caliber you have. If you want to shoot longer or further than what the caliber is designed to, then you need to know your muzzle velocities. So that's whether, like the other week there, I was working with the 22LR shooting out to 200 yards. I had to know my muzzle velocities to get the data to put into the scope. And then worked out I was 130 clicks or something on my scope. So there is that. Then you have to know your bullet data. You've got your muzzle velocity, your bullet data. You need to know what your ballistic coefficient is. Now, most manufacturers of bullets will tell you what your ballistic coefficient is. So, for instance, a 22LR, the average 22LR is 0.105. A 130 grain 270 bullet runs around about the 0.39 or 0.37. But the higher the ballistic coefficient, the better it is at long distance in regards to drag and in regards to accuracy, bullet drop, everything. So, for instance, 6.5 Creedmoor, I'm running a bullet at 0.625 and another bullet at 0.595. So that will give me a better stability out to 1,000 yards than what, say, my 270 130 grain is running at a 0.373, for instance. So that kind of data. Then we talk about scope height. Not just the scope height, but the scope itself. Is your scope running on MRADs? Is the reticle matching? Is it running MOA reticle with an MOA with clicks on the turret and things like that? Is it a matching reticle to turret? Is it first focal plane? Is it second focal plane? Now, you have to look through all that side of things. And then the mounting of the scope is how to actually measure the right height of your scope from the center of the glass to the center of the barrel. It's very simple, but all of these things play a part in long range shooting. So the guys who are very, very successful in long range shooting, whether it's precision rifle series or F class or whatever, have all this data down to the finest art. And if you really want to go serious, then you could get barrel tuners and all sorts of stuff. So that shooting out to long range can be fun, but it can be consuming and very, very geeky. So it's not all about just holdovers and seeing where the wind's going or whatever. Yeah, out to 400 yards, as long as you know all your stuff for that, then it's perfect. But 400 yards is more than long enough, especially in a hunting scenario. Think about your stock more in hunting than you're actually shooting long range. Don't get me wrong, my longest killing a deer is still 515. Now, that's a long, long way. That is way long. And I had plenty of time to do that. I knew all the data on my rifle, so I had it already in. And that's another thing. You can run through all that data through ballistic apps like Strelok or IC Ballistic or AI Ballistics or various other apps. And there's plenty of apps on your phone that you can get to get the table so you know what your drops are and things like that. It takes a lot of it's fascinating. It is fascinating. And that pulls me on to the reloading side. Now, a lot of people think, oh, well, why should I reload? I'm shooting deer with factory ammo. I'm paying £50 a box for my factory ammo, but I'm still shooting deer with it. And I only shoot 40 or 50 rounds a year. Well, if you're only doing 40 or 50 rounds a year, then fine, carry on with your factory ammo and carry on doing what you want to what you want to do, because that's fine for you. That's completely perfect, and that is totally understandable and the right thing to do for you. If you want to shoot out longer ranges, though, you probably will not want to rely on factory ammunition. It can be very variable in your rifle. First of all, you might not necessarily get the best grouping with your factory ammo. You might get a 1-inch or a 2-inch group, which is fine. A 1 and 2-inch group with factory ammo out to 300 yards is completely acceptable in the hunting world. You've got a 4-inch target to mess about with. Usually on a deer, you've a 3 to 4-inch target, and as long as you can drop bullets into that, 3 bullets into that, if you need to, then that is 100% fine. And do you know, that is not a big deal. However, if you want to do some precision shooting out past from 500 upwards, then you really maybe think about reloading. Now, reloading could be mind-numbing in itself or a mind-boggling in itself. First, you have to buy a press. You have to buy the right dies for your, not just for the press, but for your caliber. So, and then you've got powders, and it could be a little bit of experimenting before you get the right powder that will work with your with your rifle. Likewise, you might get one rifle the exact same as the other, and they'll like 2 different powders, completely different. Then you'll have your velocities and everything in regards to that. So you need powder measures, press. And do you know what? You can get starter kits for about £300, £400. And like any other hobby or interest, it can go as far as you like. Is it worth it, though? Is it worth it? Well, I'll tell you where it's worth it for me. When I've got guests, I have to use factory ammo. Now, like today, I've got guests this weekend. And like today, I went and checked the zero on my 270. Now, I don't need to check the zero on my 6.5 Creedmoor because I already did that. And that's the 2 rifles I'll be using at the weekend. Now, I had to double check what my accuracy is for my 270 on the factory ammo that it usually is okay with. And yeah, I get sub-MOA groups, which is great. It means that I can take a guess and shoot accurately out to 200 yards and not have to worry about the guest too much about missing or injuring an animal. I will try my best to get that guest in way closer to the 100 meters or the 100-yard mark. But it's not always easy. The wind could be wrong or whatever, and we might have opportunities that will have to push out to 150 to 200 yards, which the rifles accurately are capable of. Now, that is acceptable, and with the factory ammo, I can trust it a little bit. And the reason why I use factory ammo is because my insurance doesn't cover me for using reloads when I'm dealing with guests. So, however, my rifle normally shoots copper rounds with reloads for estate work, and that is far cheaper for me. It genuinely is. It is also far more suitable and convenient for me because the fact that I can load up 20 rounds and go shooting tomorrow, and if I've got the components there to do it. I don't need to travel into Inverness or travel way up north to Tain or whatever, which is a long distance. I'm 40 miles from Inverness, from my nearest gun shop. I don't need to travel to buy ammunition. I have got all the components there, and I'm able to reload my own ammunition and get to work. Now, the problem, the good thing about that is it means it's there when I need it. And it doesn't matter what caliber, except for the rimfire ones, I have to purchase that because it's just silly to try and reload that. The thing about it is, if you're only shooting 20 to 30 rounds a year, you don't need to reload. If you're getting sub-MOA accuracy from your nice rifle that you use take 20 or 30 shots a year out of, then don't reload. Don't invest in it because there's no point, you know? If you're like me who's shooting probably 1,000 to 2,000 rounds a year, then cost effectively, it's far better. Convenience, it's far better. And to be honest, tuning my rifle to being as accurate as it possibly can be is the most important thing for me, for safety, for work, for being able to experiment with loads, to have the ability to change bullets when I need to, that sort of stuff. And for component availability, I can use what components that are available that work in my rifle. Now, there's nothing worse when you go to a gun shop and you want, say, 130 grain Norma, and all they've got is Remington bullets in the gun shop. Well, your gun doesn't shoot Remington bullets. If it doesn't shoot Remington bullets, you're not going to use them. So you could be totally and utterly scuppered if you've run out of ammunition on a trip or that. At least with reloads and some factory ammo, comparing that to some factory ammo, I'm probably not going to run out. So that's where it is important for me. Is it worth it in regards to accuracy and long range? 100%. If you want to shoot accurately out to long range, you need to reload. There's very few factory ammo out there that is going to give you the performance that a reload will. So that is where it's benefit. If you're only shooting 20, 30 rounds a year, don't worry about it. If you want to shoot more than that and you want to get accuracy out to long range, then you need to reload. If you need convenience out for hunting or for availability, reload's more important. Is better than having to rely on your local gun shop having your ammo in all the time. And cost is a big deal, because 20 rounds of ammo at the moment for some brands are upwards of £60 for 20. Where I can make around about 60 to 70 rounds of ammunition for the same price, same amount of money. So that kind of things you've got to think about. I hope this podcast today is a little bit informative for you guys that want to shoot long range. Yes, as I said, I touched on ballistic apps, and I don't want to go into too many because there's lots of ballistic apps, but as long as you know what your data is, that you've got a scope that's capable of seeing out to longer ranges, know what your data is, decent scope, that you're able to get your muzzle velocities by using a chronograph, then it is not some fairy dust or magic power that gets you out to 1,000 yards. It's all to do with basically having what they say in the business, the right dope. As long as you got the right dope, you can get any bullet out there. Whether it's going to be accurate or not, that is down to your bullet, and that is down to how accurate your rifle is with that bullet combination, that round combination at 100 meters. The tighter your group is at 100 meters, the easier it will to have more accuracy out to 1,000 meters or 1,000 yards. It's just simple as that. Anyway, I think I bored you enough this week. Next week, we're going to talk about actual deer management. And if you notice, I never touched on any politics tonight, so I'm trying to stay away from that because it's like a fiery hellhole at the minute. And I'm trying to answer a few questions. It's always really difficult to answer questions. And make it exciting for everybody. But hopefully I've touched on a few things that you might be interested in. If you've got any questions about what you might need or how things might work, just drop them in a message. Comment. I always answer my comments. I always look at my comments. If it's rude, 9 times out of 10, I'll just delete the comment. If it is irrelevant, I will just ignore the comment. Yes, so if it's relevant, I will keep it up. But genuinely, I try and keep things to just answering the relevant questions. Anyway, hope you enjoyed tonight's podcast. As I said, we'll be talking about deer management next week. As a whole, we'll be talking about deer fences, we'll talk about replants, we'll talk about all of that. And hopefully, if you've got any questions, I will answer those questions for you as well. Enjoy your week. Happy hunting. Stay safe. Good night.